Modern culture usually depicts death as a skeletal monster in a black cloak. Ancient Greece, however, envisioned a daemon named Thanatos, a deity defined by a specific rhythmic duty within the cosmos. Archaeological records, like this marble relief, show him as a youthful man with wings. He carries a sword at his side, though it remains sheathed, indicating a role that was more about escorting than execution. Thanatos was the child of Nyx, the night, and Erebus, the darkness. This lineage made him the twin brother of Hypnos, the god of sleep, creating a mythological link between resting and passing away. His duties were limited to peaceful deaths. If a mortal died a violent, bloody death in battle, they were collected by the Charas, beings known as the Hounds of Hades. Because the Greeks saw death as a personified, predictable figure, they began to imagine how he might be managed. If death was a deity with a job to do, perhaps he could be outmaneuvered. Thanatos did not have the authority to kill at random. He operated strictly according to a predestined schedule. The moiwai, or fates, controlled this timeline. Atropos, seen here in the center, held the shears. When she decided a life was over, she cut the thread, signaling that it was time for the spirit to be collected. Once that thread was severed, Thanatos arrived to perform his logistical task, transporting the deceased spirit to the underworld's edge for the next stage of the journey. The Greeks viewed death as a rigid administrative process. For a clever mortal, a system with fixed rules and logistical steps had vulnerabilities, loopholes that could be exploited through human wit. King Sisyphus of Corinth was the first to test the system. After Sisyphus betrayed divine secrets, Zeus sent Thanatos to the king's palace to take him to the underworld in heavy iron chains. Sisyphus used the god's own tools against him. He asked Thanatos for a demonstration of how the shackles worked, then snapped the iron cuffs shut while the god was wearing them. With the god of death literally bound, the mortal world entered a state of flux. No one could pass away. The mortally wounded and the elderly simply continued to exist, stalled at the threshold of the underworld. This disruption infuriated Ares, the god of war. Without death, his battles had no victors and no stakes. He eventually marched to Corinth to release Thanatos and restore the natural order. Sisyphus's trick proved that human intellect could temporarily halt the divine schedule. His failure left humanity wondering if death could be overcome by something more direct, physical power. This brings us to the myth of King Admetos. Apollo had struck a deal with the fates. Admetos could live past his time if someone volunteered to die in his place. His wife, Alcestis, was the only one who stepped forward. When Thanatos arrived to claim the queen, the hero Heracles was staying at the palace. Moved by his host's grief, he decided to intercept the god before he could depart with her spirit. Heracles grappled with the deity. This was a mortal man attempting to pin down the very embodiment of the end, using sheer physical muscle to contest the inevitable. Heracles fought until Thanatos relented. The deity retreated, leaving the queen behind and allowing the couple to continue their life together. This story acted as a psychological outlet for the Greeks. It allowed them to imagine a scenario where human strength could momentarily halt a process that is otherwise beyond control. Without the finality of Thanatos, human effort loses its weight. The rebellion of Sisyphus showed that an existence without an end is a stagnant one, where struggle and victory have no meaning. A more mature perspective on this appears in the Iliad, during the hero Sarpedon's final moments. Sarpedon is not dragged in chains. Instead, he is lifted from the dust by two winged figures working in unison. These twins, Sleep and Death, work in perfect symmetry to bring the warrior home, emphasizing the connection between resting and the end of life. The legacy of Thanatos suggests that death is a rhythmic necessity. It is the final, quiet journey that gives the struggle of living its value.